My name appeared once, then vanished beneath white tape. Family portrait now included the bridegroom, her parents, and her two brothers. Beside father of groom, someone wrote, "Do not photograph. May become emotional." The handwriting was my son's. I knew its hard downward slant from every birthday card he had signed in a hurry. I touched the burned watch beneath my cuff. Its hands had stopped at 917 on the night the Harbor Grand nearly killed 40 people. Nathan knew it only as the ugly watch I refused to replace. He didn't know why the retired fire chief, 7 survivors, and Mayor Elena Brooks were entering the same ballroom with a covered bronze plaque. I could have shown the list to every guest. Instead, I asked the assistant to preserve the original and let my son finish the photograph he had designed. What would hurt more, being excluded or learning your child had prepared a lie to justify it? Comment below and subscribe to see what the city had scheduled for 917 that evening. On school mornings, I woke at 4:50 and listened to Milwaukee weather through a kitchen radio older than my son. Snow changed the route. Fog changed the stopping distance. Children changed everything without warning. At 66, I drove bus 214 for the East Harbor School District. I knew which second grader pretended to sleep, so nobody saw her cry, which brothers fought until the moment one was threatened, and which parents waved from dark porches in hospital scrubs. A good route ended with every child delivered and nothing dramatic to report. Driving children gave me rules the firehouse never could. I left on time, returned before dark, and called parents before a delay became fear. Nathan saw the yellow bus and assumed I had fallen. I saw a promise I could keep on schedule. 3 objects marked the life between jobs: Susan's mug, Eli's stopped watch, and a route card with every child's emergency contact. Nathan noticed only the damaged watch. He did not know Mayor Brooks's younger brother was the boy I carried through the Harbor Grand stairwell, or that she had invited me to every anniversary ceremony. I declined events that turned the rescue into one man's story. Nathan called it retirement work. He said I drove because I did not know how to sit still. That was partly true. I had spent 28 years with the Milwaukee Fire Department, the last 9 as a captain. My wife Susan kept our household alive through missed dinners, interrupted birthdays, and nights when smoke followed me into bed. Our son grew up measuring love against an empty chair and a radio that could call me away. Nathan knew I had been a firefighter. He did not know much else. After the Harbor Grand fire, I stopped telling stories about work. My partner Eli Turner died when part of the ballroom ceiling collapsed. I came out carrying a 12-year-old boy and a watch burned black around its edges. The hands had stopped at 917. The watch belonged to Eli. His widow asked me to keep it until I could remember the rescue without making his death smaller. 25 years passed. I still wore it on difficult days. Official reports recorded that our crew evacuated 38 guests and hotel workers. They recorded that I went back after an evacuation officer ordered withdrawal. They recorded Eli's position, the failed sprinkler valve, and the minute the roof team found us. Reports could not record the sound of Nathan, then 9 years old, asking why saving strangers mattered more than coming home. I had no answer a child could use. Susan died 4 years before the wedding after a stroke. Nathan came to the hospital, signed forms, and handled the funeral with the efficiency he used at work. Afterward, he visited when he needed a shelf, installed an airport ride, or a loan he called temporary. I accepted the shape of those visits because refusing them felt too much like refusing him. Then he met Camille Hart. She was a pediatric nurse, direct without being cruel and patient with my pauses. Her father, Victor Hart, owned 3 hotels and chaired the foundation that had restored the Harbor Grand. Nathan admired him with the hunger of someone who thought money made a family immune to embarrassment. The wedding would be held in the rebuilt Harbor Ballroom on the 25th anniversary weekend of the fire. Victor had secured the venue and persuaded the city to move its planned memorial plaque unveiling into the reception. He called it meaningful civic partnership. Nathan called it excellent publicity. Neither asked what the room meant to me. 6 months before the wedding, a city archivist named May Collins called about the burned watch. Eli's family had approved displaying a replica beside the plaque, and the Fire Museum wanted the original photographed. I met May at the station, let her document it, and asked that the ceremony center Eli and the crew. "The report names you as incident captain," she said. "The report can keep my name. The microphone does not need it." May did not promise. She only wrote down my request. Nathan saw the museum receipt on my counter and assumed it was a repair ticket. When I told him the city had contacted me about the fire, he asked me not to bring old department drama into his wedding. "It is your reception," I said. "I will not interfere." He relaxed and began listing instructions. Wear a dark suit, not the one from Susan's funeral. Arrive through the guest entrance, not the loading dock. Do not discuss the bus route with Victor's business partners. If anyone asked about my career, say I was retired from city service. I wrote the details on a route card out of habit. 1 week before the ceremony, Camille called me privately. She asked whether I would give a short toast about Nathan as a child. Nathan had told her I disliked speaking, but she wanted his side of the family heard. I spent 3 evenings writing 2 pages. I did not mention the fire. I wrote about Nathan taking apart a broken radio at 11 and staying awake until he made it work. I wrote that intelligence becomes character only when it learns kindness. On the wedding morning, I folded the toast into my inside pocket beside Eli's watch. Then I drove my old pickup to the Harbor Grand. At the service entrance, Nathan was waiting. His first words were not hello. Please tell me you did not wear that watch. I showed Nathan the watch beneath my cuff. He said the burned metal looked morbid and asked me to leave it in the truck. When I refused, he pulled my sleeve down and said at least no one would see it. Camille knows I wear it, I said. Camille does not know what photographs cost. 2 days before the wedding, I repaired a loose brace beneath the flower arch after Victor's contractor left early. Nathan thanked me by text and told the decorator not to mention who fixed it. From outside the photo, I saw the arch above him. My hands were welcome when they stayed beneath the finished picture. Zoe had noticed the repair tag bearing my name. She removed it only after confirming the structure was safe, then returned it instead of throwing it away. The sentence made no sense until Victor Hart arrived with the photographer. Victor wore a white dinner jacket and carried himself like the building had been restored for his entrance. He shook my hand, looked at my pickup, and asked whether valet parking accepted utility vehicles. Nathan laughed too loudly. The photographer, Lila Bennett, introduced her assistant, Zoe Park, and reviewed the schedule. Family portraits would happen before guests entered the ballroom. Lila's printed list included father of groom Samuel Reed beneath Nathan's name. Nathan took the clipboard. He led Lila toward the windows and spoke with his back to me. I could not hear every word, but I saw her point to my name and frown. Nathan covered the line with white tape. When Zoe approached, he said, "Keep my father out of every formal photo." Zoe stopped behind him. Nathan did not see her. He said the Hart family wanted a polished record and that I might become emotional because of the building. He told Lila to photograph me only in candid crowd shots, never beside the couple. Then he wrote, "Do not photograph. May become emotional on the margin." Lila asked whether Camille approved. "I am the groom," he answered. When he returned, he smiled and said the schedule was running late. He directed me toward a lounge where general guests were waiting. Through the glass doors, I watched Camille stand beside her parents. Nathan took the place beside Victor. The open space on his other side disappeared when an usher moved a flower arrangement. Zoe found me near the coat check. She apologized and offered to photograph me separately. "Do not risk your job," I said. "The original list is part of our event record. I am not deleting it." I thanked her. Preserving a record was different from turning it into a weapon. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Camille walked down the aisle with Victor stopped halfway and hugged an elderly nurse who had trained her. Nathan cried when she reached him. For 20 minutes, I could see the boy who once brought injured birds home in shoeboxes. Then the officiant asked who supported the couple. Victor and his wife stood. My name was not in the response printed in the program. I remained seated. After the vows, Camille came directly to me. She kissed my cheek and asked whether I was ready for the family photographs. Nathan appeared before I could answer. "We finished those," he said. Dad wanted a quiet moment. Camille looked surprised. I could have corrected him. Instead, I asked for 5 minutes alone with my son. In the empty corridor, I showed him the toast pages. Camille asked me to speak. Nathan glanced toward the ballroom. Victor changed the program. "The mayor is coming. The plaque ceremony is at 9:17 and we are already behind." Did Victor remove my toast? Nathan did not answer quickly enough. "I did," he said. "You tell stories that make people uncomfortable. You have never heard this one. That is not the point. Tonight I need the Harts to see I belong with them." The words were cruel because they contained the truth he had carried for years. To belong with them, he believed he had to look unrelated to me. I asked whether Camille knew he had removed me from the photographs. "Do not drag her into your feelings." He left me holding the toast. At the reception desk, my place card had been moved from the family table to table 19 beside 2 vendors and an empty seat. A note in the security binder identified me as a possible disruption due to grief and confusion. The instruction carried Nathan's initials. Security Supervisor Marcus Hill approached with professional embarrassment. He said I was welcome to remain if I avoided the stage and family photo areas. I asked him to preserve the instruction and told him I would not cause a scene. "Were you really confused earlier?" he asked. "No." He studied me, then changed the note from confirmed condition to unverified report. Inside the ballroom, Victor raised a glass and praised Nathan as a self-made man whose values matched the Hart family. Nathan looked toward my table only once. At 7:40, Zoe slipped the original photography list into a clear evidence sleeve used for model releases. She gave it to Lila, not to me. The white tape still covered my name, but the ink beneath remained visible. The picture had been taken. The lie prepared to justify it had also been preserved. The Harbor Ballroom had been rebuilt to look as if fire had never touched it. Gold panels hid reinforced beams. A mirrored wall covered the place where Eli and I had crawled beneath the collapsed ceiling. Only the north clock remained original. Its hands worked now. At 8, hotel staff rolled a covered bronze plaque beside the stage. May Collins arrived with Fire Chief Dana Keller, 7 survivors and members of Eli's family. Nathan assumed they were part of Victor's civic program. He did not recognize May when she greeted me. "You asked us to keep the focus on Eli," she said. "We did. But the mayor made her own decision about the official record." May brought dispatch audio, an incident map, hospital records, and a report signed by 3 commanders. 7 survivors submitted accounts. The plaque didn't depend on my memory or the mayor's gratitude. It named Eli Turner, every crew and hotel workers who kept stairwell doors closed. My name appeared once beside incident captain. Recognition could correct Nathan's story without using survivors as props. I told her this was my son's wedding and asked that nothing embarrass him. May glanced toward table 19. "Acknowledging service is not an attack. What your son does with the truth belongs to him." Before I could answer, Camille found us. She knew May from the plaque committee and asked how we were acquainted. Nathan interrupted, saying I had volunteered on a minor research call. May did not correct him. She looked at me first. I shook my head. The ceremony would speak at its scheduled time. I would not use her to win an argument. Camille noticed the security guard near me. She asked why he kept checking our table. Nathan said I had become overwhelmed by memories of Susan. That was the second lie he used to make my exclusion look protective. "Sam, is that true?" Camille asked. "I miss Susan every day. I am not confused." Nathan took Camille's hand and said guests were waiting. She let him lead her away, but she looked back. Chief Keller sat beside me. She had been a probationary firefighter during the Harbor Grand Rescue. Now her silver collar pins caught the ballroom light. "Your son knows you were captain that night, right?" she asked. "He knows I worked the fire." "That is not what I asked." I turned Eli's watch beneath my cuff. Nathan had been 9. After the funeral, I answered his anger with silence because silence felt safer than admitting I had made a choice that brought me home and left Eli there. Over time, Nathan built his own explanation. His father chased danger because strangers applauded. Public recognition would challenge that story, but it would not erase the childhood beneath it. At 8:20, Zoe approached Camille with the model release folder. Lila had discovered that the altered family list conflicted with Camille's signed photography plan, which specifically included both parents. Company policy required the client to approve the change. Camille lifted the white tape. My name appeared beneath it. Nathan said it was a misunderstanding. Zoe calmly described where she had stood and repeated his instruction. Marcus brought the security binder after Camille asked whether any other restriction involved me. The unverified report carried Nathan's initials. Camille read both pages twice. "You told me Sam wanted privacy." Nathan blamed Victor's schedule, my emotions, and the city ceremony. Victor said he had changed only the timing of the toast, not the photo list. For the first time that day, Nathan had no larger authority to hide behind. Camille asked me whether I wanted the photographer to recreate the portrait. I looked at the white flowers in the empty place that had already been designed around my absence. Not while the reason is still being denied. Nathan called that punishment. "A photograph is not repair," I said. Camille removed the formal portrait from the same night preview and instructed Lila not to publish any family images until all photograph people approved. She did not cancel her marriage in a dramatic gesture. She made a smaller, firmer decision Nathan would not use a polished picture to bury what he had done. Then she asked for the toast I had written. I gave her the folded pages. Nathan reached for them, but she stepped back. The first page described the broken radio. The second ended with one line, "May you never confuse being admired with being known." Camille's eyes filled. Nathan looked as if I had struck him. "You wrote that before today?" she asked. 3 nights ago." At 8:43, Nathan followed me into the north corridor. He said I had turned vendors and his bride against him. I reminded him that I had shown the list to no guest and made no accusation from the stage. You stood there looking wounded, he said. You knew someone would rescue you. The word rescue landed harder in that building than he understood. I told him I would stay through the city ceremony because Eli's family deserved my presence. After that, I would leave. Nathan said leaving would prove I had never cared about his wedding. You removed me before I arrived, I said. I am deciding what to do with the place you left. The ballroom lights dimmed at 9. A screen descended behind the covered plaque. Nathan returned to Camille because cameras were turning toward the stage. At 8:46, Mayor Elena Brooks entered through the north doors. The ceremony would begin after another 31 tense minutes. Mayor Brooks crossed the ballroom toward me, but I met her halfway and asked to speak behind the stage. Elena had been a college student when her younger brother was rescued. She knew me by sight, though we had not spoken in years. The city wants you beside Eli's family, she said. I told her what had happened with the photographs and asked whether my name could be omitted from the stage announcement. Are you protecting your son or protecting yourself from his reaction? The question sounded like something Susan would have asked. I could leave before 9:17. The plaque would still be unveiled. Eli would still be named. Nathan could keep the wedding's polished surface, and I could avoid becoming the public contrast that exposed his cruelty. But Eli's widow Marjorie was already in the ballroom. She had traveled from Arizona with their daughter. 7 survivors had come because the city promised the ceremony would finally name the entire crew. Leaving would not be quiet dignity. It would make Nathan's comfort more important than their witness. I will stand for Eli, I said. I will not use the microphone to answer my son, Elena agreed. She also refused to erase the official record. That boundary belonged to her. In the service corridor, Camille read my toast again. She asked what Nathan had been like after the Harbor Grand fire. I told her the truth. He had nightmares whenever a pager sounded, and I responded by becoming silent. Susan carried his questions because I could not carry my guilt. He thinks you chose strangers over him, Camille said. Some nights that is how it felt from his bedroom. I did not turn Nathan into a monster to make myself innocent. I had missed his science fair after a warehouse alarm, his 13th birthday after a highway collision, and part of Susan's final conscious afternoon because a former firefighter called in crisis. Service can be honorable and still leave wounds at home. Marjorie joined me near the service elevator. She remembered Nathan asleep at the firehouse after Eli's funeral and Susan carrying him home alone. Eli had loved the job, she said, but service never paid the debts left inside a family. For years, I treated her loss as greater than Nathan's and more deserving of attention. Grief does not become honest by ranking it. She told me to honor Eli without using him to silence my own son, and to hear Nathan without letting him rewrite his choices that day. That was the balance I had avoided. Camille asked whether those wounds justified the photo list. No. Pain explains a choice. It does not make the choice honest. She folded the toast and returned it. I need to hear him admit that without blaming you. At 8:55, Nathan asked me to step outside. He offered to restore one photograph if I agreed to leave before the city ceremony. He said the mayor's appearance belonged to Victor's foundation and warned that my presence would confuse the message. What message? That the Hearts rebuilt this place. Firefighters and hotel workers kept enough of it standing to rebuild. His jaw tightened. This is why I canceled the toast. You turn every moment into duty. I showed him Eli's watch. I am staying because his family is here. Nathan said Eli had been dead for 25 years and did not need another ceremony. The instant the words left him, shame crossed his face. He did not apologize. He said I had pushed him into saying something terrible. That old pattern was not loud, but it was clear. If I accepted responsibility for his sentence, nothing between us could change. You chose the words I said. You can choose what follows them. I returned to table 19. Nathan followed Camille toward the bridal suite. Victor watched them argue and then sat beside me. He admitted Nathan had asked him to replace me in the formal family portrait. Victor had assumed there was a private estrangement and had not questioned it. He apologized for the joke about my truck. You wanted him to like you, I said. Yes, so did I. That made both of us easy to use. Victor asked whether he should stop the civic ceremony. I said no. The event existed before the wedding and honored people who had no part in our conflict. He could stop the reception cameras from turning it into Heart Foundation advertising. Victor made that call himself. By 9, I had decided what intervention meant. I would not leave retaliate demand a new photograph or let applause purchase forgiveness. I would stand when Eli's name was called. Afterward, I would tell Nathan the conditions under which I was willing to speak again. The burned watch rested in my palm. Its stopped hands did not ask me to live forever inside one terrible minute. They asked me not to edit who had stood there. At 9:04, the production manager asked Nathan to approve the final cue sheet. He was supposed to review it in the control booth. Instead, he carried it behind the stage curtain, where he believed the only people waiting were hotel technicians. I sat 10 feet away with Marjorie Turner and her daughter. A black drape separated us from Nathan. He could not see our chairs. Victor joined him. Their voices carried through the gap. Nathan said the mayor should unveil the plaque, thank the Hart Foundation, and leave the stage before naming individual firefighters. If Elena insisted on calling me, the camera director should cut to Victor and Camille. Nathan wanted the edited wedding film to show the family that restored the Harbor Grand, not an old bus driver turning tragedy into a comeback. Victor asked whether Nathan knew my role in the fire. He says he was a captain. Every firehouse has captains. The city archive calls him incident commander. Nathan paused. Then keep him brief. People will think I hid him because I am ashamed. Victor answered. Did you? My son gave the honest answer only because he thought I had left. I spent my childhood smelling smoke on him while other fathers built careers. The hearts represent the life I earned. If he stands in those pictures, everyone sees where I came from before they see where I am going. Marjorie's daughter took her mother's hand. Neither looked at me. Victor said a wedding portrait was supposed to show where two people came from. Nathan accused him of becoming sentimental because the mayor was present. Then he revealed that he had marked me as confused, so security could remove me if I resisted. It was a precaution, he said. He always makes people feel sorry for him by staying quiet. The sentence completed the pattern. My silence had become evidence of whatever motive Nathan needed. Victor took the cue sheet away. I will not instruct my staff to falsify the city ceremony or remove your father. Nathan said the hotel belonged to the Hart Group. The archive does not, Victor replied. Neither does Camille. They left through opposite sides of the curtain. I remained seated. Marjorie asked whether I wanted her to tell Nathan we had heard. Not yet. Camille deserves the truth before the room does. The production manager preserved the original cue sheet because it contained handwritten camera changes. An email attached to the file showed Nathan had requested them 2 weeks earlier before any claim that I became emotional at the wedding. The timeline mattered. Exclusion had been planned, not improvised for my safety. The cue sheet named the civic segment Hart Legacy Moment. May had titled it Harbor Grand Rescue Crew and Survivors. Nathan replaced it for the wedding. The producer stored both versions, so he couldn't blame the change on my behavior that day. Zoe's photography list showed the same advance plan. Marcus's security note showed the false justification. Victor had heard Nathan admit the motive. None proved I had been a perfect father. Together, they proved the wedding day erasure was deliberate. Camille listened in a private office with her sister present. She did not ask me to confront Nathan for her. She asked what I intended to do after the ceremony. Leave alone, I said. Speak with him later if he accepts some conditions. What conditions? No blaming you, Victor, or my career for instructions, he wrote. No public apology designed for guests, a private conversation with a counselor present, and no photographs until we can stand together without pretending. Camille nodded. Her own decision was harder. She had married Nathan less than 2 hours earlier. She loved him and had just learned that he could construct a lie, distribute it among vendors, and call the result protection. I will not do the first dance, she said. I will stay with my sister tonight. He can choose honesty without an audience, or this marriage will end before we build a life inside it. Nobody applauded. No music underscored the sentence. She removed the decision from the reception schedule and placed it inside her own future. At 9:10, Nathan discovered Victor had canceled the Hart promotional camera cues. He entered the office, saw Camille beside me, and understood that the hidden conversation had not remained hidden. He accused us of holding a trial without him. Camille handed him the cue sheet and asked whether the handwriting was his. He said yes, then explained why every instruction had been necessary. That is not an admission, Camille said. It is another defense. Nathan turned to me. You sat behind a curtain and listened. I was assigned that seat for the city ceremony. You could have announced yourself. You could have told the truth while believing I was absent. The production manager knocked. The mayor was ready. Nathan straightened his jacket and said we could discuss everything after the first dance. Camille told him there would be no first dance that night. For the first time, he understood that the wedding schedule no longer obeyed him. The north clock reached 9:16. Chief Keller asked the rescue crew and families to gather beside the stage. Nathan remained near the bridal table, still believing the public ceremony could be managed if he kept his expression calm. Then the mayor lifted the microphone. Mayor Brooks began with the building, not with me. She described the failed sprinkler valve, the smoke-filled stairwells, and hotel workers who went door to door before fire crews arrived. The screen showed names, dispatch times, and the original incident map. At exactly 9:17, she uncovered the bronze plaque. Elias Turner appeared first beneath the words "in memory." Below it were the names of every crew member, dispatcher, engineer, nurse, and hotel employee formally recognized for the rescue. My name stood among them, Captain Samuel Reed, Incident Command. The ballroom became quiet enough for me to hear the old watch shift against my palm. Elena called Eli's widow and daughter to the stage. Then she invited the surviving crew. Chief Keller took my elbow, not because I was confused, but because my knee had stiffened. I stood beside Marjorie. Nathan stared at the screen. Victor had told him I was incident commander, but the official record made the fact harder to reduce. Photographs followed my younger crew entering the north stairwell, Eli carrying hose hotel workers leading guests through smoke. The final image showed me on a stretcher holding Elena's 12-year-old brother beneath one arm. Elena explained that her brother survived because the crew returned after a collapse cut off the marked exit. She did not say, "I acted alone." She named Eli the ladder team and the hotel engineer who opened a service corridor from outside. Chief Keller invited the survivors. One was a dishwasher who held a stairwell door with a serving cart. Another was Elena's brother, now a father of 3. Their accounts corrected the heroic picture. Nobody escaped through one flawless man. Dozens of choices led through smoke. Nathan watched me step back so Eli's daughter stood nearest the plaque. The mayor gave me a stage. How I used it showed whether I had learned from silence. Then she asked me to speak. I had promised not to use the microphone against my son. I kept that promise. This watch belonged to Eli Turner, I said. It stopped at 9:17, but his work did not. Every person who walked out carried part of it forward. Please read all the names before you remember mine. I gave the microphone back. The applause rose slowly. It was not revenge, and it did not feel clean. Across the room, Nathan stood beside the formal portrait that excluded me. Public honor and private failure occupied the same frame. Victor approached the stage and told the mayor the Hart Foundation would fund preservation of the full archive without branding rights. He did not claim the rescue or turn his apology into a speech. Camille remained with her sister. She had the altered photography list and cue sheet in a folder. When Nathan tried to guide her toward the stage for a publicity photograph, she stepped away. Camille asked Lila to project the signed photo plan beside Nathan's edited list. She needed relatives to stop saying I requested exclusion. The pages showed the change and Nathan's signatures on different dates. Camille said no image would be released under a false caption, and that leaving was her decision, not mine, Victor's, or the mayor's. She refused the first public lie of her marriage before it became the remembered story. Not until the truth is complete, she said. Nathan walked to the microphone without being invited. He congratulated the crew and said grief had caused tension in the family. Then he claimed I had requested privacy from the wedding photos because the building overwhelmed me. The lie survived less than a minute. Lila Bennett, the photographer, asked permission to correct the record. Camille granted it as a client. Lila stated that Nathan had ordered my removal before the ceremony and had changed the signed family list without Camille's approval. Zoe confirmed she heard the instruction. Marcus identified Nathan's unverified security report. Camille displayed no private messages and offered no diagnosis. She said only Sam did not ask to be excluded. I was told that he did. Nathan accused vendors of misunderstanding a stressed groom. Victor stepped forward and said he had heard Nathan admit he removed me because he was ashamed of where he came from. The preserved cue sheet showed advance instructions to keep me out of the city's footage. This was the second reveal. The first established what I had done 25 years earlier. It did not prove Nathan's betrayal. The vendor records witnesses and his own planned cues established that. Nathan looked at me. Say something. I asked what he wanted me to say. Tell them I had reasons. You did. Reasons are not the same as permission. His face twisted with the anger of a child and the calculation of a grown man. He said I had missed half his life and returned only when a mayor offered applause. That wound was true. I missed days you needed me, I said. I let silence make Susan answer for my choices. I am sorry for that, but I did not write your photo, order your security note, or your camera cues. The room heard both truths. I did not surrender mine to acknowledge his. Nathan turned to Camille and asked her to begin the first dance so guests would stop staring. She removed the microphone from his hand and returned it to its stand. "I am leaving with my sister," she said. "I will not begin our marriage by helping you edit your father out and call it love. Contact me tomorrow through the counselor we discussed." He reminded her that they had just exchanged vows. "Then those vows require more truth than you have given me." Camille did not tear her dress, throw her ring, or invite the room to judge her marriage. She chose where she would sleep and what conditions would govern the next conversation. That was enough. Nathan asked Victor to stop her. Victor said she was an adult. The sentence deprived Nathan of the authority he had been borrowing all day. Guests began leaving the dance floor. Some stayed for coffee. Others formed a line to speak with Eli's family. The reception did not collapse into chaos. It simply stopped obeying the photograph Nathan had planned. He came to me near the north clock. His first apology began, "I am sorry you felt." I stopped him. "An apology names what the speaker did." He tried again. "I am sorry the ceremony made everything bigger." The ceremony did not alter the photo list. Nathan looked past me at the mayor's survivors and cameras. He wanted a sentence that would repair the room before he understood the damage. I gave him my conditions. 90 days without using Susan, the fire, Camille, or Victor to carry blame. One private meeting with a family counselor. A written account of each instruction he had issued and why it was false. No public statement in my name. "You are giving me homework," he asked. "I am giving myself distance." I removed the folded toast from my pocket and handed it to Camille, not Nathan. She had asked for those words and she had treated them honestly. Then I returned Eli's watch to my wrist. Mayor Brooks offered me a city car. I declined and walked toward my old pickup. Chief Keller and Marjorie came with me as far as the lobby. At the ballroom doors, Nathan called Dad. I stopped but did not turn back. He had used that word all day as a label to move, hide, and explain me. If he wanted it to become a relationship again, the next evidence would have to be his actions. I left before the band played another song. The city released its Harbor Grand Archive the following week. Every crew member and hotel worker remained in the story. The wedding was mentioned nowhere. That mattered. Service did not become a weapon in my family conflict. Nathan issued no public statement because I had forbidden him to speak for me. He sent Camille flowers, then an apology that blamed stress, Victor, and the memorial timing. She returned both. She stayed with her sister and began counseling alone. For 90 days, I did not take Nathan's calls. I answered one weekly email only to confirm I was safe. Distance was not punishment. It was the space in which words could stop chasing immediate forgiveness. He lost no job and went to no jail. Humiliating a father is not a crime. The consequences were relational. An unfinished wedding album, a wife living elsewhere, vendors unwilling to support his revised story, and a father who no longer accepted useful errands as a substitute for love. I kept driving bus 214. Children cared nothing about plaques. They cared whether I remembered the field trip stop near the puddle and waited until the smallest student reached her porch. Predictable service healed something dramatic praise could not touch. Camille visited once without Nathan. She returned my toast and said she had read it during counseling. She was not asking my permission to stay married or leave. She wanted me to know she had postponed filing the wedding photographs and would make her decision after Nathan demonstrated change without an audience. "Whatever you choose," I said, "do not choose it to protect my pride." She nodded. That is the first advice today that did not tell me which door to take. Nathan's written account arrived on day 78. It contained no adjectives about my emotions. He listed the altered photo order security report, canceled toast camera cues, and lies to Camille. Beside each, he wrote what he had wanted: approval status, control of the image, escape from being the firefighter's neglected son. The final page did not ask for forgiveness. It said I used a real childhood wound to justify a new wound I chose as an adult. I agreed to counseling. Our first meeting was not tender. Nathan wanted recognition that I had missed important days. I gave it. I wanted him to admit he had enjoyed Victor's approval more than he valued my presence. He did. Neither confession canceled the other. When he tried to call the wedding our mutual failure, the counselor stopped him. My failures belonged to years I could name. His wedding instructions belonged to him. Shared pain did not require shared authorship of every betrayal. Camille attended later sessions. She and Nathan lived separately for 6 months. Eventually, she chose to continue the marriage under conditions: ongoing counseling, independent access to finances, no public storytelling about private conflicts without consent, and no demand that reconciliation follow his preferred schedule. Hope entered through structure, not sentiment. I did not move directly back into their weekends. Nathan began with coffee once a month. He asked about my bus route without mocking it. I asked about work without measuring whether it impressed me. Sometimes we sat through long silences that were no longer being used as evidence. The formal wedding portrait was simply never recreated. Camille kept one candid photograph Zoe had taken after the civic ceremony. It showed Eli's family reading the plaque. I stood at the edge listening. Nathan appeared in the background, with his hands lowered, no longer directing anyone. With Marjorie's permission, I donated Eli's watch to the fire museum. The display placed it beside the full incident map and a recording of every dispatcher's name. A replica stayed with me. Its hands also read 917, but its mechanism ran. Time could remember a moment without remaining trapped there. 1 year after the wedding, Nathan rode bus 214 on a safety education day. He watched me secure a child's wheelchair and wait while a nervous student found the correct stop. After the route, he said he understood why I had chosen the job. "Tell me," I said. "Because everybody gets home. That is the goal." He did not ask whether he was home yet. We both knew relationships were not routes with guaranteed arrival times. At my kitchen table, Susan's blue mug remained beside the weekly route cards. Nathan placed a copy of his written account in the drawer where I kept family documents. I did not display it like a confession. Accountability worked by changing the next choice, not by becoming another plaque. The empty chair from his childhood could not be refilled. The missing place in the wedding portrait could not be painted back without a lie. What we could build was a relationship that no longer demanded either of us disappear to make the picture easier. If someone apologized only after their public image broke, what private action would you need before believing they had changed? Share your boundary in the comments. And subscribe for more stories about quiet dignity, earned trust, and families that learn recognition is never the same as repair.